So the Switch 2 just released last week. I got it a couple days late, but even still, these are my first thoughts after having a week with this new device. To start off, this boy feels premium. Most of it is plastic, except for the much improved kickstand, which is metal. But even though it's plastic, it feels fantastic. The JoyCons do not feel like they're sliding out at all. They actually take quite a bit of pressure to pull out unless you use the button. And so as far as build quality, this bad boy is awesome. But there were some other promises that I feel like Nintendo didn't necessarily hit the nail on the head with. Let's start with these Joy-Cons. So the Joy-Cons, while very impressive, and especially on the magnetic side, they're super comfortable. The analog sticks are big. The buttons are probably twice the size of the buttons that were on the original Switch. It feels like an adult can hold these controllers. But there are reports already that drift is beginning to be an issue in these Joy-Cons. I haven't experienced that, and I really struggle to understand how anyone will have experienced drift this early on, but it is using the same technology that the original Joy-Con was using. So who knows? I only know of one case that has come out around that. So fingers crossed it's just a factory defect and everything is fine. While we're talking about the Joy-Cons, by the way, they also offer some interesting features. Where the old Joy-Con had an IR sensor at the bottom, we've abandoned that for two optical sensors on the side that can be used to treat the Joy-Cons as a mouse. And it works pretty good, at least in the home screen, because you'll be hard-pressed to find a game that actually uses the mouse controls. I only own one. I tried a lot of games, even Minecraft, that I thought would work. The only game that I have that would work is Fortnite. And here's a little warning: if you guys went ahead and migrated or plan to migrate everything over from your Switch 1 to your Switch 2, the Switch 1 version of Fortnite doesn't work on Switch 2. So you can update it, get it all ready to go. It will let you do it. And as soon as you load in, you get peely and it doesn't work. So then I re-downloaded it. You have to go into the settings within Fortnite. You have to choose which Joy-Con or both that you want to use for mouse controls. And you have to turn gyro controls off. If gyro is on, these will not work. And after that, honestly, the mouse controls are really good. It's a little hard to wrap my head around because everything else is like it would be on a controller. Like you jump, you reload, everything on the button, but now it's sideways, and you even still crouch by pressing in on the right stick. So it really all you did was just replace stick movements with the IR sensor. But it does a good job at it. It does a good job for what it is. Back to the body of the Switch. First impressions here, like I said, it feels great. Has a very matte plastic finish, metal kickstand, and according to Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour, the screen is supposedly protected by a tempered glass protector. I didn't buy Welcome Tour because I feel like $10 just didn't make sense to get for basically what should have been a pack-in game. But this is reported by Wolf Den. On the Wolf Den podcast, he was talking about it. He did get Welcome Tour. It does say that there's a tempered glass like covering over the screen. And I think it's absolutely a lie. If you touch this screen, it feels very cheap, very plasticky. So the very first thing that I wanted to do was put an actual tempered glass screen protector on my Switch, which I did do, and that helped make it feel so much more premium and helped me to sleep at night for certain. And then Jerry Rig everything, in very common Jerry Rig fashion, decided that he would tear this thing apart and give it a durability test. And the screen scratches at a level 3, proving it's plastic. You can easily scratch this thing cosmetically all over the device, but with the screen, it would only take like a key or a quarter, just whatever you have in your pocket would do it. The screen, while we're talking about that, it is gorgeous. Though it is not an OLED display, you wouldn't know it, especially with that glass screen protector on. It really kind of, I don't know what it is about the glass. It just crisps it up, makes it feel much more premium. The HDR is deep and rich and beautiful. Supposedly there's 120 frames per second. Not a single game that I own will hit that metric. 60 is the highest that I've been able to see, both with the upgraded, enhanced versions of Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, and as well as Mario Kart. Mario Kart feels in handheld like it's more than 60 though, because every other frame is like a blurred frame. So it really feels like you're getting a lot of frames and like you're going faster than you really are. But it is only 60. The only game that I'm aware of right now that actually takes advantage of the 120 hertz display in handheld mode is Welcome Tour, for one small mini game where you can kind of see the differences in the frame rates. Similarly, the only game that I know of for sure that's taking advantage of 4K is Welcome Tour and the enhanced game. So Mario Kart, maybe Cyberpunk is doing it. I haven't tested that. And then the enhanced versions of like Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, maybe even Pokemon. I will say that if you are a Pokemon fan, especially Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, definitely are going to see an improvement on this device. I didn't play too much of it, but it is way better, way more stable from what I can tell on the Switch 2. Let's talk about old controllers. So one neat thing about the Switch 2 is that it is pretty much fully reverse compatible with the previous Switch and all of its games. And that includes controllers. For that reason, I didn't buy the new Pro Controller. I didn't see a need to buy the new Pro Controller because the Switch 1 Pro Controller works great. Now, apparently the new Pro Controller has slightly better sticks, slightly better D-pad, and you will get the back buttons that you don't have on this one. But if you don't care about those back buttons and you want to save $80, your old Pro Controller works seamlessly. It just connects automatically. As a matter of fact, every Switch controller from the first generation that I tried on the Switch 2 worked flawlessly with the exception of one brand. That brand is 8BitDo. Now, 8BitDo is aware of this, and they have released some firmware updates for their like Ultimate Wireless controller, and check it out on Twitter. There's a whole list that they have updated. Unfortunately, the 8BitDo device that I was most interested in is this little boy right here. He's an adapter, and he's called the G-Bro, and he's specifically designed to allow you to use an original GameCube controller wirelessly on your Switch. Well, at least semi-wirelessly. You plug your GameCube controller into the adapter connects wirelessly to the Switch, and then any buttons that you're missing can be found right here on the front of the adapter. This isn't supported. It doesn't work on the Switch 2, which is a real shame considering the Switch 2 has Nintendo Switch Online GameCube, and I did update the firmware on this thing, and it didn't work. That didn't fix it at all. It connects to the Switch 1 instantly. Still can't get it to connect to the Switch 2, so if you were considering picking this up to use an original GameCube controller for NSO Online, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't do that yet, or wait to see if 8BitDo is going to update the firmware. I honestly think that they will. While we're talking about Nintendo Switch Online, I was able to jump into Mario Party on N64 Online with my buddy P. Tony. We stream over on Twitch all the time, and every Tuesday we stream together. Well, I convinced him to try to do Nintendo stuff because he's really a PC gamer, and we played, myself on a Switch 2, he on a Switch 1, Mario Party. And it's just as bad as I remember playing Switch 1 to Switch 1. Consistently, audio would cut in and out, frames would lag, and I'm hosting. I had the better experience of the two, and I would chug down on a Switch 2, sending this footage from a Switch 2 to a Switch 1 over the internet. We had a great connection. We both have pretty substantial internet, and we're both very close to our modems. And it was wildly difficult. We lost to the computer. Actually, he technically won. I came in last place, which is a shame because I was hitting pretty much none of the timed moments. I was messing up my jumps. I'm not a terrible platformer, but it was really difficult to play online, even on a Switch 2. Now, if you're not trying to play online, it works great. It works great across the board on all of it. You won't have any troubles at all. But what does work surprisingly well online is actually game chat. I jumped into game chat for just a brief few moments with my buddy Topaz. You guys will remember him from last season of the web show. He and his son were playing Mario Kart World, which I played a lot of, and it was an opportunity for me to test out the camera and game chat. I was very skeptical of how good game chat would work, considering the microphone is built into the top of the system, and this was docked all the way on the other side of the room for Topaz. I heard him fine. It's a little wonky, but it was picking up him and his son across the room, and I didn't hear any room noise. I didn't hear the TV. I didn't even hear their game. Like, I didn't hear feedback from the Mario Kart that they were listening to through the speakers built into the TV. I didn't even hear a feedback loop of my own mic going to them. It was very impressive. Your gameplay like that. If you look at mine now, you can see what I'm doing.
You can do full screen on the settings.
Yeah.
Let's do free roam. See what that looks like.
Sounds good. It's to do free roam.
We can meet each other.
Do I have to do wireless or online play first and then free roam maybe? On top of that, I'm so happy to announce that you do not need the $50 Nintendo camera to use a camera with game chat. When I was talking to them, plugged in my old Logitech webcam, just plugged it into a USB-C adapter that I didn't need because it was docked. I just didn't realize that. So you don't need that adapter, just plug it into the side of the dock. And it immediately worked. And that webcam actually has a microphone built into the front of it. And not only did it just pick up the webcam, it switched the mic from the one that was built into the Switch to the one that was right in front of my face on the webcam. There's 3 different modes. You can show your whole body. You can show, your whole body and your whole room. You can cut out the background, which works mostly okay. And I was in front of a green screen, so it had its best case scenario with me. Or you can just put a little ring around your head and capture just your face. And that by far worked the best for me. I also took a moment to cast my gameplay to Topaz, which on my end was seamless. He saw it in about 480p, not too super cute, but it didn't cause my game to lag or stutter or do anything. So while Nintendo Switch Online, still not that great, game chat really impressed me. Oh, a little added note that I thought was cool. Not only will it work with any webcam, I later came back, and I'll put a picture up right now of me doing this, and I was able to get it to work with my streaming rig, which was my DSLR camera into a capture card, that capture card into a USB-C adapter into the Switch, and it worked. I'm sideways in it because my DSLR is turned sideways in my streaming rig, but that's really impressive. It's still going to transmit 480p video, but it is going to be the crispiest 480p video that you can possibly do. The only other thing I have to talk about that really impressed me is the battery life. I'm seeing varying different statements around how good the battery life from the Switch 2 is. I will say I set mine to only charge to 80%. That's a setting that you can turn on to try to preserve the life of the battery over time. I did do that because a lot of the time I'm going to be playing this is probably on stream docked, so that's fine. And then I had an unforeseen last-minute trip 2 states away, like a road trip that I had to take, and I fully charged the Switch and I brought it with me. We drove 8 hours there. I played a lot of it on the way there, and then I drove 8 hours back. And while I wasn't playing the Switch, it was in standby after having played pretty much all night long. It was in standby in my case. I got back home and I still had like a 32% battery. That was insane to me. I don't think my original Switch would have lasted that long. I was playing Mario Kart World, which is arguably one of the more intensive games. I mean, it's an actual Switch 2 title, so one of the more intensive games that you could play, and it just worked. It was great. Put it back in my dock when I got home, and we were good. I will say, when you are gaming on the dock, it may be doing this intentionally to try to preserve the battery, but it does charge the Switch slowly. So if you just throw your Switch 2 in the dock, don't play anything, just let it charge overnight, or just just doing it just for power consumption, it charges pretty quickly. If you are gaming through the dock while charging, I did notice that it's a gradual increase. Like I said, I don't know if that's because it's just not getting the wattage it needs to adequately charge while also providing a power boost and powering the dock itself and everything, or if Nintendo did this intentionally because slowly recharging a lithium-ion battery is supposed to help it last longer. So maybe that is an intentional choice. I don't know. What I do know is I am surprisingly really enjoying this thing, even the parts of it that are a little not perfect yet. But let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear your thoughts. Are you getting one of these? My personal opinion is that unless you really care about Mario Kart World, you don't have to be in any rush, because that's really the only Switch 2 game that you can only play on this. If you want to play Cyberpunk or any of the other ones, they're on a lot of different consoles, and pretty much everything else on this library is just the Switch 1 library. So if you have a Switch 1, you could probably wait until holiday season. But nevertheless, are you getting one? Let me know. And like, comment on this video, share this video with a friend, maybe a friend who is considering getting a Switch 2 and they're a little bit on the fence. They're not really sure what to think. This is just my initial thoughts video. This isn't an in-depth review. Most videos you see this week probably are not going to be an in-depth review because we all got the Switch basically the same time. So if you'd like to see more, make sure that you subscribe. The next video I'm planning on working on is going to be a little bit more of an in-depth look on what a difference the enhanced version of like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild and Pokemon make on the Switch 2, and if it's actually worth paying the $10 for that upgrade, or if it's worth just holding on to your Switch 1 until it's time to play like Metro Prime 4 or something that you really want that would really get a benefit from the Switch 2. So make sure you're subscribed if that interests you. I'm going to be putting out a lot of shorts. I'm going to be streaming a lot of Switch 2 on twitch.tv/webbypumpkin every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Would love to hang out with you guys. And just, yeah, thanks. Thanks for giving me a little bit of time to just wait for the Switch 2 to finally show up so we can start making videos again. I hope you guys have a great one, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.